Hi, welcome back, Latino community.
Thank you for tuning in.
So today we're going to be continuing sort of our theme, our topic of moving up, having upward mobility within the Latino community, and what we deal with.
Yeah, especially as we kind of move up in society, and we were talking about what that all involves, and then we were noting that microaggressions, and we wanted to talk a little bit more about those.
Yeah.
But Martha, you made an interesting point of microaggressions from outsiders, but also insiders, right? And so from having them in double sides.
Right, yeah. I know when we were talking about, like, what's your experience like going into different environments as we're getting more education, more financial stability. And a lot of our stories were like, wait, isn't that a microaggression? Well, that was kind of rude. I can't believe that happened.
Right.
And so, hence the theme of today, right? Yeah. Microaggressions as we move up. But yes, so like we get these microaggressive comments or behavior or interactions from the people that we grew up with, right? From like families, primos, tias. And also our neighborhood friends or like friends from high school that they're just kind of like, who do you think you are?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? Or like, so what if you're a doctor? And it's like, I don't want you to respect me because I'm a doctor, but like also don't diminish me, right?
Yeah, there seems to be like this idea of or maybe some belief system, right? And they start kind of wondering, are you too good? Are you too good now because you have a master's degree or a doctorate, or because you have this job? They think they're too good now. And I think that's really hurtful when it comes from, at least for me, it's more hurtful when it comes from within, like from family and friends.
Right. It's like, just congratulate, bro.
Yes.
There's for me, I'm married to a white guy, right? And it's not even like about my education or my career. Sometimes it's just like, porque te casaste con un güero. Like, because you married a white guy, you act like this. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm just being me now. But we grow. That's the thing. Like, we grow, we evolve, we become different people. I'm not going to be the same person as I was when I was 20. Yeah. And whatever that looks like, I just feel like it would be nice for people to accept that I evolve.
And I just, again, it's kind of how we were talking about last video. It's like, how do we see each other, right? That is an upgrade. Like, it's not an upgrade to marry within the culture, right?
Right.
And so it's, like, damn, like, how do we see each other sometimes?
With a lot of judgment, I'll tell you that much, right? Yeah. And you experience it with the comments that we get. And I know I talk about my brother a lot, but I was talking to him about just his experience and what we talk about all the time, and I said, I would hate to be judged by who I was in high school or right out of high school. Like, if you know me now, like, I would love for you to really take the time to understand who I am today, right? And he's like, oh man, you just have no clue. Like, it doesn't matter how successful, how educated, how, whatever I have, people from high school will just try to bring me down to like who I was in high school.
Really?
And it's always like, oh, but you remember, you know who I knew you back then. And it's like, that's great. Yes, you did. But can you get to know me now,
Yeah.
And it's just like those little things where you just can't, it feels like you just cannot be happy for who we've become. But of course, there's also the other side. It's not just like the microaggressions that we get from our family or the friends. It's like when we move to these new societies, to these new environments, like the backlash we get also, right?
Yeah, almost this tension feeling, right? Of they're not saying it, but maybe like their energy or their body language, their looks a little bit.
More quizzical, like what do you belong? What are you doing here?
Mm-hmm.
Or I don't think I've ever been asked, like, what are you doing here? But I definitely do get a double take.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm ever in a situation where it's primarily like a white space
Mm-hmm.
or like more affluent areas, I do get that like, oh, and then they have to kind of go out of their way to be nice, and I'm thinking, was that necessary? Would you have done that to that person over there?
Yeah.
Which I appreciate, but then you notice those differences.
I think it's just comments, and I don't know if people realize it, right? For a Hispanic, not too bad.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Or, and it's just, backhanded compliments, right? Like, are you trying to say something nice? Because that was just very rude what you just said.
Right. Right. One thing that I have been thinking about as we're playing around with this conversation, the language, how you come in, and they assume you speak Spanish, or they assume you speak English, or even if I was, I have this story where I was going into a restaurant and I see this busser, and I said, "Oh, can I sit here?" in English. And he looks at me and gives me the dirtiest look, and he says, "Sí, está limpio."
Oh, wow.
I think he was offended because I spoke in English, and I was like, how was that offensive? But I apologize. Like,
Right.
Was I the one giving you microaggressions, or are you just assuming that I speak Spanish? I was just like, all right, well, that's an experience. And then I go to another restaurant in the same area, and I'm sitting with all English speakers. The owner comes and says hi because they knew the people, and he's speaking Spanish or English to all of them. He gets to me and he says, bienvenida, gracias por estar aquí. And I'm just like, it just feels weird. Like, why would you speak English to everybody? I obviously know English, right?
Yes.
I'm like, was he trying to be polite, or I don't understand. And even my husband kind of was taken aback, like,
right.
That's weird. Why would you do that?
Right.
I'm like, dude, I don't know. I'm like so confused by this like language, like needing to understand like who to speak English to, who to speak Spanish to. But also at the same time, I'm like offended by it every time, regardless of what angle I'm in.
What side you're in.
Yeah.
That's interesting because I am too. I don't know why, but when people assume that I don't know English, I'm just like, what? And I don't know if I just take it as a microaggression. When people just start, I think it's like you don't even ask. Especially when white people try to talk to me in Spanish.
Oh my gosh, no way.
Because I think what bothers me is you don't ask.
Mm-hmm.
You just kind of assume, and I think I would like to be asked, like with my clients, especially with my teenagers, I kind of always asked, do you want me to speak to you in Spanish or English?
Right.
Because I don't want to assume, right? I don't want to accidentally feel like I'm putting a label.
Right.
And I think that's the part that's just bothersome. It's just you're assuming already a lot about me, and you're not asking me.
Right. And I feel like there's such a message there. At least for me, just as we say, like, I have the nopal on my forehead, and I'm like, I'm pretty proud of it, but I can also speak English,
Right.
It'll be okay.
Right.
So those are the things that I kind of encounter most of the time with microaggressions. Obviously, with being in a predominantly white area now, I do get like is this a place for me? Am I able to be in this space without my husband and feel comfortable? And I know we've talked about this, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, do you choose to be there? Is it somewhere that you want to be at, and then you just kind of have to deal with it, right? But it's even like if I have to go pay for something at the register, you kind of get that like glance of like, should I assume that they're supposed to be here? Should I assume? What should I ask? You know?
Yeah.
So I've been working really hard to just embrace my lifestyle and who I am and where I'm at, and just, understand and give people grace that it's probably new for them and they just are going to have to adjust.
For sure. I think something kind of going back to the within, right? I think I haven't really experienced this, but I know people that have, and just the microaggression, not being sensitive that everyone Hispanic is Mexican.
Right.
Like everyone is just like, oh yeah, they're Mexican, and you're like, no, they're actually not. They're Salvadorian or from Honduras or something, right? And it's just like that, microaggression of everyone is labeled as one thing, and how offensive that is. Of just not even getting to know like culture, right? Like
I guess we always try to like other each other, right? And how much do you actually experience? How much do you expose yourself to it? And then also like, how much are you aware of it happening? That it's happening to you, right?
Yeah,
sometimes
for
it
sure.
just feels like a dig, and you're left with like, what was that about? Or that kind of hurt my feelings, and I have no idea what that's all about.
I'm thinking of other microaggressions that I feel I have heard, and I think this is something that we're maybe not familiar with it because we are first gen and we are born here. And so I think the people that are not from here, there are other countries, the microaggressions they get of, oh, I mean, they've basically been here since like 3 years old, 5 years old, 7.
Right.
They live here, they are Americanized, but they're born from other countries. The microaggressions they get, oh, but you're from there. You're not really American, right? You're still from there. And so, I think, it's good for us to kind of even mention those microaggressions that, could be received just with that, right? Of,
you're not actually accepted.
You're from another country, and how hard that could be, especially as you're trying to find your place, in America, the United States, and especially as kids, right? Like finding their way and feeling like the other, right?
Yeah. I know that a lot of kids deal with this, Hispanic kids in school, whether they speak English, Spanish, whatever country they come from, if they're born here or not, like a lot of the times they're going to be treated differently. The teachers are going to be, approaching them a little bit differently, and just seeing like how they need to adjust to them. And it's kind of like, it's okay,
Absolutely. I used to work at a middle school, and then I work a lot with teenagers right now, and so ESL is something I'm familiar with. And my heart goes out to those kids. Man, they get treated differently. It's so disrespectful how they get treated. Not even a conversation is automatically with the translators. Like, I'm not even going to bother you to try to communicate with you to see your level, if we could engage in communication. I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to bring a translator to do the work. Right? So robotic in a way of like, give these kids respect.
It's automatic disrespect. It's automatic like dismissal. It's like, okay, we're not even going to interact with you.
Right, and that's like an incredible, like intense microaggression, right? Of like, we're not even going to try. We're just going to label you and think that you don't know any English.
Right. Yeah, I hear stories of ESL kids, and part of what I do in therapy with the parents is like teaching advocacy, right? I'm like, oh, by the way, this is not okay. By the way, you can actually go and speak with somebody, and you can actually tell them that that's, not acceptable. Because they just get treated so differently.
They do. It's a shame. Yeah. I think going back to the internal microaggressions, because I think those are the ones we least expect.
Right.
I think the outsider ones are almost expected. Like, they're still tough, but I don't get shocked. Do you get shocked sometimes if you get an outsider one?
I think maybe exposure therapy has helped me.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's still, maybe I've just developed a little bit of a coping mechanism for it, but yeah.
Right. But I think it's the insider ones that shock me the most, because it's like, well, what do you think of me? And it almost makes you feel bad for succeeding and for being successful,
or sharing it.
Or sharing it, like good news. So like, I did this, my accomplishments. That microaggression of, oh, I think, are you bougie now? Are you too good? Like I had some family members, and I shared the story that because I had a master's, they thought that I was going to be too good, that I was going to carry myself, that I was too good for them, because they didn't go to school. And that just blows my mind. Because I have a degree, you think I was going to think I was too good for you? Right.
How do you deal with that?
I don't know. I try not to get insulted, right? I try to, maybe see where they may be coming from. I think it's an opportunity to say, no, just me. I'm still, down for the parties and the and the beers and the get together. Even though I have a master's degree, and I think that's an opportunity to maybe help them change their definition of what it means for someone to advance.
Right.
Maybe that would help them understand that that's not always the case. That it maybe it's more personality or values, necessarily not accomplishments.
Yeah, no, that's so true. My dad's family, like sisters, he has a lot of sisters, so I don't really know all of them. But whenever our kids or like my brothers and sisters go and visit, the comment is always like, wow, your kids are actually really nice. And it doesn't matter like how they've ended up, they're actually kind. My dad's like, yeah, of course, like what are you talking about? So yeah, it's this expectation of like, if you are more educated, if you have you've moved upward in financial status, then you're going to be, I guess, rude, or like, I'm thinking, I can't translate it, but despota. Like,
okay.
Like, I don't know what this, anyway. So they have this like expectation.
Like all that.
Yeah, like you just are conceited, right?
Yeah,
you're conceited, you don't want to hang out with them. And then they would say stuff like, I can't believe they came and stayed at our house. I'm like, what am I, a celebrity now?
Yeah,
like,
right.
no, I'm just, I just studied, and it was really hard.
Yes.
But I love that aspect of like, no, we're just an example now to all of the other cousins. And you can study, you can have your degrees, you can have your businesses, and still be humble and still like be part of the family.
Yeah, for sure. Like it feels bad to be othered by your family and friends.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's still me. I'm still gonna be a part of this. I'm not a celebrity,
Yeah.
Just because I advanced doesn't mean, I'm too good, to be here.
Right. And to your point about like values, like no, it's just a change in personalities or values. We have some nieces that they kind of stopped talking to us, or my brother and specifically, and the comments around the family, because everybody talks about it, or well, it went to his head. He's just too conceited now. We just
Okay.
But really, it was a difference in values of accountability, of work ethic, of that my brother has reached a point where he has like no BS meter. He's just like, or tolerance. He's just like, I can't deal with people that are just going to BS. So no. So that's more of like a personality clash versus like I'm too good for that person, you know?
I don't know. Like, I wonder sometimes how much maybe our culture, or some people in our culture, like box our culture in, right? And so I wonder if that just is part of the microaggression within. Because I'm thinking of, as I've gotten older and as I've tried new spots and, gone to different neighborhoods just outside my environment. I think my taste buds have changed, right? I'm gonna eat at different places. I'm gonna eat at different restaurants. But I think someone maybe have perceived it. Oh, she thinks she's too good now. And it's just like, no, well, I just think my taste has changed a little bit, but it's still me.
Right.
I'm still going to eat pozole, menudo, and fajitas and everything and, all of that good stuff. But I'm also going to eat at this nice restaurant too.
Yeah.
And, I think, I don't want to feel bad about that.
Right. I think that when you have higher education, you are exposed to many more people from different upbringings, from different cultures, from different backgrounds, right? So they influence us. And you spend 4 years with these people, right? So then you start getting influence from like your Egyptian friend and your Lebanese friend. And then you go into this new profession, whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, whatever, and you start building community there. That is super diverse too. So yeah, when you say like I've seen different neighborhoods, I've traveled, I go to different places, it's because we start exposing ourselves as we move up in society. We start exposing ourselves to different cultures, different people, different backgrounds, and you just are kind of like a kid in a candy store, like, well, I didn't know that this existed. That tastes really good. I want to go. I want to go and experience that even more. So it's part of that growth,
for sure,
and it's part of us evolving. It doesn't mean that it takes away or strips us at all of our culture or like our preferences or that that nostalgia that we feel when we eat the pozole, It just means like we've acquired so many more experiences because we're exposed to so much more.
For sure. I just wish, we didn't, like, that was more accepted, that it didn't equate to, oh, that person thinks they're too good
Exactly.
now.
Right. Unfortunately, what ends up happening is that when we do try to go back to those places where we grew up or we felt at home, because we get that backlash, it just kind of makes us like not feel at home anymore. And we're like, okay, well, maybe I can start limiting my time, and that's really unfortunate.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm wondering what we could do to kind of say, no, that's not what's happening, because if I'm honest, I do know people that do that. They do end up saying, you know what, that's behind me, that's not me anymore, right? And so it does exist,
That's true.
It's not like it's never,
that's fair.
It's never existing, because it very much does. But I guess, like, how do we kind of send the message that doesn't exist all the time or with everyone, it does exist, but it does not equate.
Right. You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking of like the novelas that portray that. Like, anyway, so it portrays that like as soon as they get money, then they become snooty.
Yeah, yes.
So maybe that's where like it's become so ingrained in our culture, like, oh, es que tiene dinero, ya se le pasó, But, I feel like there's a process for some people that, like, really work towards it. And then, but I think that's a really good point. Like, it's fair that it does happen.
Yeah.
Like anything else in any other situation, just get to know the person.
Yeah.
Right?
I think, going back to the microaggressions, right? And so I'm wondering...
We always veer off so much into, like, all these topics. Sorry, people.
Yeah, the microaggressions, I think, something also to kind of consider is who's doing them in your life. Is it a family member? Is it a best friend? Is it a stranger, a coworker? Like, who is doing the microaggressions in your life? And
that's true.
How are you handling that? And is it a time to kind of reconsider setting boundaries or even distancing or having a conversation? Because I think that's also a big important factor, like who is doing them. and how
Right.
are they impacting you.
And I think it does depend on like whoever it is,
Mhm.
however often it is.
Yep.
That's how you would approach it, right?
Mhm.
Like right now that you said have a conversation, I'm thinking, yeah, confronting somebody about it would probably be like somebody that's completely unaware of what they're doing.
Mhm.
It's happening maybe sometimes, and they have really good intent, but it's coming off wrong.
For sure.
That's a really good conversation.
Yeah.
But somebody that is like constantly, consistently, and is very intentional
Mhm.
about trying to bring you down,
Exactly.
boundaries probably.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that was our talk about microaggressions. Thank you for watching. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoy that conversation, though. And always get involved, leave us a comment, and we hope to see you soon.
And don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.
Bye.